Hi everyone, my name is Kara and thank you for watching my first video of Crafts with Kara. Fall is finally upon us where pumpkin spiced everything is everywhere. So what better way to get into the holiday spirit than to start making some fun fall crafts? Today we are going to make flower pot scarecrows. These are great for the holidays, especially with Thanksgiving coming up, where you can make them as gifts for others, gifts for yourselves, or just really cute house decor that will get noticed. But before we get started, let's go over the materials that you will need to complete this craft. You can get all these materials at your local craft store. I got everything here from Michael's except for the fabrics, which I got from Joann Fabrics. Money saving tip, be sure to download their app for coupons. Just real quick, you're going to need 2 clay pots that are 2 inches. Make sure they have holes at the bottom. You'll want 4 1.5 inch clay pots. Also make sure they have holes and go ahead and take off the stickers. You want some raffia that looks like the straw stuff. Twine rope, I pre-cut 4 strings, 2 at 20 inches long and the other 2 at 12 inches long. You want some burlap and your favorite fall fabric. Multi-surface paint, I have orange, white, and black here. It doesn't matter the brand or size, you just need a small amount. You're going to want a pink crayon, some Mod Podge or craft glue mixed with water, 2 paintbrushes, a thick one and a fine point tip. You're going to want a pen, pencil, and Sharpie. A paper plated napkin will come in handy, a ruler and scissors, some buttons for decorating, you can use whatever you want, and also a hot glue gun. Okay, so let's jump right in. First we are going to cut out our fabrics to glue for the body and legs. So take your fall fabric and turn it over on the back side so we don't make any marks on the front. And take one of your 2-inch pots and make a mark using your pencil on the top rim so you can see it. We are going to lay the pot flat on your fabric and use that marked line as a starting point. Take your pen and carefully roll the pot over, marking the fabric as you go. Once you meet back at your mark, pick up the pot and line it up again where you started, this time marking the bottom of the pot. Now we are going to cut that out and make sure it fits around our pot. If you have some extra, you can cut it off. But if you're a little lost making the fabric patterns, I pre-made a template for the 2 sizes you will need that you can simply print out and use as stencils. Yes, you're welcome. The PDF link is in the video description. So just to show you, I'm going to use my small stencil to make the other 2 shapes we will need for the legs. Now I'm going to cut those out, so we have the 1 big shape for the body and the 2 littles for the legs. Next, we are going to make 1 more cutout using the burlap that will be used for the face. I'm going to use my big stencil to draw this out. If your pen's mark doesn't show up on the burlap, you may need to use a Sharpie. So I'm going to draw that out and cut it. Now let's draw our face. Turn your burlap over to the clean side and note that when we wrap this, the bottom is going to fold under, so make sure you don't draw below that point. I'm going to use this fabric to block that area so I don't draw below that line. So centered on the fabric as close to the top as possible, I'm going to draw 2 ovals for the eyes. Make the whites and pupils. I'm going to draw a cute little jelly bean nose, a squiggly smile, and just for fun, I'm going to draw a tongue sticking out. Now what if you're like, wait, Kara, I can't draw to save my life? Well, don't worry, I got you. Also, on the PDF link, I drew out a few different cute faces. You can pick one and use it to stencil a face through the burlap. But if you're having a hard time seeing through the burlap, hold it up to a light or shine a flashlight underneath so you can see through. Next, you can either take your Mod Podge or be cheap like me and make it with regular craft glue and water. So I'm going to use this tacky glue that I have on hand, pour some into a cup like this, you don't need too much, and then pour in a little bit of water. Grab your bigger paintbrush and mix it up really good. But make sure it's not too watery. I like mine about the consistency of gravy. You can always add more glue or water as needed. Now comes the fun part. We are going to paint this glue mixture over one of our 2-inch pots. Be sure to paint the pot all around underneath the rim, giving it a good even coat. Next, take your big shape of the fall fabric and starting under the rim of the pot, carefully fold the fabric over, lining the strip under the rim. I'm putting pressure just at the top right now. Fold it all the way over, and as you can see, I need some more glue. So I'm going to paint that on and fold over the rest of my fabric. After that, go ahead and smooth out every inch of the fabric, making sure to get out all the glue bubbles and wrinkles. We want the fabric to be nice and snug on the pot. Now we are going to paint glue on the bottom of the pot and fold the extra fabric over nice and snug. I'm definitely going to put some more glue to make sure it stays. Glue is your friend here. Also, make sure you don't cover the hole with the fabric. We are going to need that later. Once you're done, set the glued pot aside on your plate. Next, we are going to repeat that with the 2 of the 1.5-inch pots for the legs. Do the same thing you did before, but on these smaller versions. Make sure everything is well glued and the fabric is smoothed out, Again, make sure you don't cover the holes with your fabric. A tip, I like to wipe the rims off with your napkin to make sure there is no glue that could stick to your plate. Now take your other 2-inch pot and we're going to glue the burlap on. I like to center the face first to make sure I don't wrap the fabric over and cover it. So I'm going to paint on my glue. Make sure you use a lot of glue because burlap really soaks this stuff up, so the more, the merrier. To make sure the burlap doesn't cover your hole, I like to use a pencil to push the fabric out of the way. We will need this hole for later. Okay, once all 4 pots are glued, they are ready to dry. If it's a hot sunny day, you can put them outside and they should dry in about 10 to 20 minutes. But if you're impatient like me, you can use a hair dryer to dry quickly. Welcome back. I have 4 fully dried pots that are clean to the touch. Now it's time to paint the face. So grab your white, orange, and black paint and squeeze out about a pea-size amount on your paper plate. Then grab your fine-sized paintbrush and start painting. I'm going to use my white to paint the whites of the eyes and dot reflections on the pupils and nose. Then I'm going to pick orange to paint the nose. Next, I'm going to use black to paint the mouth, outline the tongue, outline the nose, and to fill in the eyes, outlining them as well. Once your face is done, we are going to let this dry. Next, we are going to take our pink crayon and fill in the cheeks. I like using a crayon instead of paint because the wax gives the pink just a natural light haze of color. I'll add some pink to the tongue too. Now, let's get ready to add the raffia. So grab that and your ruler. We are going to make the hair, so grab your raffia and pull it all out of the bag. They normally come tied at one end, so I like to find that knot to make sense of the mess. Next, I'm going to pull about 4 long strands out of the bundle and align them up. You're going to want a thick handful of raffia that's about 10 inches in length. So I'm going to fold together and cut until I get strands about 10 inches. Now we're going to take the 2 pre-cut twine strings that are 20 inches in length, and using both strings, we're going to tie a knot around the center of our raffia. We want to tie the knot towards the end of the string. Double knot it and make sure it's good and tight. Next, we're going to stick the strings into the inside hole of the head. If your burlap is covering the hole slightly, you can use your pencil to move the burlap aside, making the hole easier to pull through. I'm going to stick the strings in one at a time and pull. If you're having trouble, you can always tape the ends of the string, but I'm just going to force it through. Once through, pull until you feel it get tight. Then continue pulling so the raffia bends in half, making the center of the raffia sit on the bottom of the pot. Then use your fingers to pull and spread out the raffia at the base to even the hair inside. After you spread the hair, take your scissors and give it a trim around the sides. It doesn't have to be perfect, I just trim the strays that are noticeably longer. And for me, I like to bend a few pieces near the face just to make the hair look a little more natural with some different dimension. Let's set the head aside and next work on the arms. So grab the other twine ropes that are 12 inches in your 2 1.5-inch pots that have no fabric on them. So take your raffia again and pull out 3 strands which are going to make about 5 inches long. Again, line up the strands and fold together and cut to make a bulk that is about 5 inches. Next, take one of your 12-inch strings and tie a double knot close to the end of the string around the middle of the raffia. Insert the string through the inside hole of one of your small arm pots and pull. And same as before, we are going to pull until the raffia folds over and sits tight. Then spread the raffia out inside. Next, trim your raffia ends to make even. Then repeat and do the same for the other arm. Once the arms are done, we are going to connect them to the body. So for now, grab one of your arm strings and stick it through the outside hole of the body. Pull it through a little bit and bring in the second arm as well. Now we are going to decide how long we want the arms. I like the arms to sit on the table flat with a little extra play in the string. Once I have them where I want, I'm going to turn the pot over and mark the string with a Sharpie right where the string and pot meet inside. Then tie a double knot on that mark to hold the arms in place. After you tie your knots, check your arms to make sure they didn't move and adjust as needed. I'm happy where this is, so I'm just going to tie another knot or two for good measure, and cut my ends a little bit so they don't hang out. Next, we are going to connect the head to the body, so we're going to take the head strings and pull them through the top hole of the body. I'm just going to stick them both through and pull a little bit. Then I'm going to keep the head laying flat on the table because next we are going to add some raffia for the neck collar. So I'm going to grab 2 strands of raffia and do the same thing we've been doing, but this time make the handful length about 3 inches long. Once I have my 3-inch handful, I'm going to glue the raffia onto the top of the body in an X pattern. So grab your glue gun, keeping in mind we need to do this step quickly because once we put the raffia on, we have to pull the head the rest of the way through to tighten the string gap before the glue dries. So we're going to glue and quickly place the raffia in the X shape. Then place the head centered on top of the body and pull the strings through to tighten the head until it's snug. Once my head is on tight, I'm going to quickly spread out my raffia along the neck collar before the glue fully sets. Then you'll need to add some more glue under the head to finally secure the head to the body. Next, trim the edges of the neck collar. I'd recommend to cut the raffia a bit shorter in front of the face because when it's sitting on a shelf, the raffia can sometimes block the smile, so I'm going to trim that area a little bit more. Okay, we are almost done. We just have the legs left. So go ahead and separate your 2 leg strings and grab your remaining 2 pots. For me, the ends of my strings are a little bent from use, so I'm going to cut off the tips so they can fit through the holes much easier. So the next step is to figure out how long you want the legs to hang. You can use the end of the table you're working on, so bring the Scarecrow to the edge and hang off the legs to see how long you want them to be. Then take your Sharpie and mark the string right above the pot where you want the legs. You can pull the pots off for now and mark the other string. Next, we are going to tie a double knot right on top of the marks we made on each string. You want to try and get the knots as even as possible. After you have your knots, bring the pots back on. Now it's time to add the raffia for the feet. So like before, grab 3 strands of raffia and fold and cut to get a handful about 5 inches long. Once you're ready, this is where it's going to get a little bit different, but still easy. So take 1 leg string and tie a knot around the center of your raffia. Double knot if you can, but 1 knot should be fine if you run out of string space. Do the same for the other leg, and if you have any extra tail strings, be sure to cut them off so they don't show inside the pot. Now, instead of pulling the raffia through like we've done before, we are going to glue the center of the raffia to the bottom of the pot. Remember, we have this knot here as a guide to where we want our feet to be. So hold your knot, or better yet, place the knot firmly against the table while you glue to keep everything in place. So taking your glue gun, add some glue to cover the bottom of the pot. And while holding the pot with the knot against the table, push the raffia down to the center. Since the glue is hot, I don't want to push it with my fingers, so I'm going to grab my pen and push the raffia down in there. Use your pen to spread out the raffia, and after a few seconds, the glue is cooled down to where you can use your fingers to continue spreading out the raffia inside the pot. And after that, go ahead and trim your edges. Then, go ahead and repeat this for the other leg. The next step is purely optional. I'm going to decorate my Scarecrow with burlap patches and a button. You can follow along with me, or you can use flowers or whatever you want. So I'm going to cut some little burlap squares to be used as patches. They don't need to be perfect, so I'm just going to eye it on how big I want them. I'm going to cut out 1 small square for the chest and another smaller square for the leg. Once you have your 2 squares, a trick with burlap is you want to remove the end threads. I'm going to remove 2 from every side. This kind of gives it a more natural and frayed look. You can see the difference here. Next, I'm going to put this on my foot to see where I want it and pull out the threads for the other square as well. 2 threads on each side again, and place it where I want it on the chest. Next, take your hot glue gun and glue on your patches. Finally, I'm just going to choose a button to glue on the chest patch. And voila! You are done! What is great about these cute little scarecrows is you can always add your own style. As you can see, I made a few other options with different faces and fabrics. I like to keep it simple, but your imagination has no limits. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed making these little scarecrows as much as I did. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see more fun crafts and what we will do next.